Episode 8 of From Season 4 has just been released, and in this episode, we finally got to see the man in yellow returning. Boyd's mind is now breaking, Fatima's body is transforming, Jade is getting frustrated, and the man in yellow is becoming frightened about what's on the horizon. He said that an unimaginable suffering could be on the way if they retrieve the bones, but I think he's bluffing. This episode quite literally set up the final two to be a collection of episodes that are going to contain risk, tension, and simply the unknown about what's on the horizon. So with that, I wanted to break down the episode, explain the ending, and share what I thought of it. Here is From Season 4 Episode 8, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Man in Yellow. Boy, was I excited when the man in yellow appeared during the ending. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect it, but I'm so glad that it happened. Throughout this episode, we saw that Sophia was up to something simply because she took the yellow jacket from Boyd's office, and she also went into Tabitha's home and took all of the drawings that Ethan did to remember people. It turned out this was because she was actually planning on transforming into the man in yellow with the hopes of frightening Tabitha. This is actually the most time that we've ever spent with the true man in yellow, and he was frightening. Not only did he have a coldness to him that was supported even further by the grey skin tone that he had, but with the soft touches, the laughs, smiles and kisses that he gave off, it was just so unsettling to watch. Sophia asked Boyd earlier on in the episode if the totem ended up working on the monsters out of the blue, to which Boyd said no, and you could tell that there was a slight sense of relief in her face even though she had to look disappointed. The man in yellow mentioned the plan about the bones to Tabitha, which is something that I feel is going to get mentioned again and could be key to uncovering the identity of him, because they'll think about who was in the room when they discussed and revealed the original plan. Plus, he also put a conundrum in her mind where the bones could be the key to getting out of there, or they could unleash a kind of suffering that could never be imagined. Personally, I think the bones are the key. If a suffering was going to be unleashed, there'd be no warning whatsoever. It would be in the man in yellow and the monster's favour for the suffering to happen, because that's exactly what they aim to do every night when they go out of the caves. So I think the man in yellow lured Tabitha there because he was actually frightened that they were getting closer to getting out of the town, and they might have just found an answer. So I think once Tabitha reveals to Boyd what she saw, he'll look at it like that too and know that the mission that they're going to embark on into the caves might bring about some people's end, but in the long run, the opportunity for more people to be saved could be the very thing that does end up happening, just like what Father Khatri said. It was actually interesting hearing the man in yellow saying how Jade and Tabitha and the previous incarnations of them were the closest things to friends that he's ever had. It made me question if the man in yellow is actually a lonely individual, and also made me question if he's actually the ruler of the town, or if the town itself is an omnipotent force that is bound together in some way by a curse, a little bit like Widow's Bay. Either way, I think the man in yellow showed his hand by doing that to Tabitha and showed that they're heading in the right direction. It also connected to what Jade said earlier about people in the past not being able to make the difficult decisions and doing the risky things to find the answers. So I think the plan to go into the caves will be something that will happen in the next episode, and it could yield results. Boyd's fractured mind. Now, I think the reason Boyd's mind is beginning to break more and more is because of the very reason that the man in yellow appeared in front of Tabitha at the end, because they're getting closer to answers and finding a way of getting out of there. With Boyd, we're seeing his tremors becoming more regular and him hallucinating and seeing and hearing things. Most of what he sees comes from his biggest nightmare, and that's the fact that he's responsible for the death of the love of his life. It's something he's never been able to get over, and in seeing the photo of the Viewmaster, the ring on the stairs, the hand of her at the grave, and now also the gunshots that killed her, it shows that he's still stuck in the past and not truly moved on from it because of the guilt that he has. The vision that he had when he left the woods was something that also showed that his biggest insecurity in the present day was him being responsible for getting more people killed. Hence why he saw Jade, Tabitha and Donna all dead on the ground in the woods. He is leading the town, but he's reached a point where he's struggling to make difficult decisions because he doesn't want to sign off on a plan that's going to get more people killed. I don't think Boyd can take the weight of more deaths. The graveyard is full, and the most recent dead, Roger, didn't even find peace in death. Pair that with Boyd's breakdown to Donna when she was on the cusp of death, he's not got much more fight in him. The issue that Boyd had with the plan to retrieve the bones in this episode is that there was only one way into the chamber and one way out, so he feared that once the people went down there, then the monsters could simply block off the one and only exit and then slaughter them all. So he didn't want to lead people on a mission where they weren't going to be able to make their way back. However, Jade realized that there is actually another way out of the chamber, and that's through the bottle tree. Above the chamber, there used to be roots of a tree, and that tree eventually became the bottle tree. So what Jade wanted to do was send people in there to get the bones and use the truck to pull the tree out of the roots, which would then enable people a safe passage out of there. It seems like a plan that would work on paper. However, Boyd feared that on the day, the tree wouldn't be able to get pulled out and then everybody would just be stuck down there. We've seen the town play tricks on people and cause things to go wrong on multiple occasions, so I wouldn't put it past the town on trying to keep the bottle tree in the ground if it came to it. Look at what happened to Dale after all. With Tabitha revealing what the man in yellow said to her, it's going to add to the difficult decision that Boyd is going to need to make, but I do think that he'll believe that the man in yellow is frightened and look to exploit that by going through with the plan. Henry's despair. Being told that you have to forcibly disconnect from the anchor that's keeping you in that place means only one thing: you have to die. And this is what I've been saying all along. The town has been manipulating Henry into believing that the real world is actually what he's seeing when he's having these visions. And do you know what? The show even had me thinking that what we were seeing was real for a small moment. Henry saw an idea of what he wanted his life to be like, the one that he never got to have because it was all taken away from him. Victor was wearing a suit and seemed to be successful. His daughter was too, and he also had a grandchild. This was Henry's dream, the family and life that he never got to have. All of this basically stems from the fact that the man in yellow put his blood inside of Henry's drink, and it's now enabled him to basically get inside of his mind and take over his reality. Henry has no idea what's real or not anymore, and he doesn't know if he needs to forcibly disconnect or if he needs to stay in Fromsville and just ride out the storm like everybody else. He was told by Victor in his vision that he took a substance a long time ago, that there was something wrong with it, and that was what caused his mind to enter that point where he's been in the care facility and imagining this alternative world. In reality, we know that that's not the case, and it's basically just the town trying to cause more damage and to get Henry to end things for himself. I believe Henry is going to die, and whilst the plan might end up being successful in retrieving the bones, the death might not occur there, but it will occur at Colony House when he walks off the roof of the building. A couple of episodes back, Victor said to Boyd how many years ago somebody once walked off of the roof, and I think Henry is going to be the person in this cycle to do that. Otherwise, why was it mentioned? Henry is going to believe that the perfect reality is waiting for him on the other side because that's what he believes is real, and sadly, he's just going to perish and become one of the other trapped souls in Fromsville. Henry's performance in this episode was actually really strong, and when he returned and said, "Take me back," that hit hard because you could really feel the emotion in his voice and the sheer despair that he had over not knowing what to believe anymore. Fatima's transformation. Following Fatima connecting to Smiley in the previous episode and her saving Kenny because she caused Smiley to become confused, in this episode we saw the aftermath of what she went through and how it impacted her. With Fatima, we saw that she had varicose veins running through her body and she had a heart rate of 16 beats per minute, meaning that she shouldn't be able to be alive at that point. Fatima had a coldness to her and she believed that she could well have been transforming into one of those monsters. I wonder if what happened during the Season 3 finale is actually going to connect to that very theory that she has. It's obviously said that the monsters gained immortality by sacrificing their children in the caves. Technically, that did kind of happen with Fatima, even though it was against her will. She carried Smiley, birthed him, and then her child was taken from her and given to the town. So I wonder if even though it wasn't what Fatima wanted, the town still recognized the ritualistic act of the giving over of her child, and now she's going to end up carrying the curse with her moving forward. The fact that she's got such a low heart rate level, it does make me wonder if she's transforming into something. It would make the most sense. It was said that the monsters didn't have a pulse, so I wonder if Fatima's is going to drop to 0. I think Fatima will also connect into the plan that Boyd is going to be doing with the sending of people into the caves. If she's able to connect with Smiley and she wants to utilize her abilities, I think she'd do what she could to help and see if she could track where the monsters are whilst they're inside of there. Ethan and Victor. I actually found Victor's story in this episode to be one that was quite heartbreaking. After realizing that Ethan was basically going to mirror the journey that he went on whilst in the town and end up being the last remaining person, he was doing his best to just tell him how to survive. During this time period, we initially saw Tabitha deny Henry's help up to the container, but by the end of it, we saw that Tabitha held his hand and almost spoke as if she were Miranda. When Henry was speaking of the loneliness, that was where it was the most emotional because you could feel the pain that he actually went through and it must have been horrifying. I did actually find it quite funny though when Victor said how the doll that was originally Miranda could be transformed into Tabitha and she just rolled her eyes and had enough of it all. When she told Victor that his mother did try her best to get him out of there and that she loved him deeply, you could tell that Victor felt every word of it. The touching of his hand showed that Tabitha was now actually going to be there for him, and he actually felt in that moment he was speaking with his mother, hence why he continued holding his hand up. My review of the episode. I really enjoyed this episode. Whilst it didn't have the action, that was fine because last week was pretty action-filled right at the end, and also we got a real haunting scene with the man in yellow during the ending of this one. The way that he just appeared out of focus behind Tabitha's head was perfect. The man in yellow is a character that's performed so well and they really did nail the casting with that role. It was an important one to get right and they didn't fall short in the slightest. They did the same with Sophia. They actually share mannerisms, which I imagine is deliberate, but the subtleties in the way that they act and look just work perfectly together. I was a bit confused in this episode as to why Julie didn't feature at all. I feel like in the season 3 finale, the story walking was given such a heavy focus, and during the first half of the season it also got that too. So I am disappointed that ever since Julie quite literally saw the man in yellow and the massacre, we've not seen any progression of it. I also find it odd that the Lake of Tears hasn't been mentioned again and the gym that Ethan saw hasn't had any weight or consequence either. Boyd's story and performance is something that I'm continuing to be impressed with week after week. We're seeing such a slow deterioration of the character, and I feel if I went back to the very first season, the difference would really be felt, but in such a subtle way. He's frightened, but he's not as frightened as the man in yellow. Jade continued to give me the moments where I just laughed out loud, when he ran to Boyd and was just shouting his name, and also when he was justifying why he built a model of the tunnels and not the map. It had me in pieces. If I'm being honest, I do feel like it's taken some time to get to the point where the group is about to be heading into the caves, but I am ready for it. I just feel like maybe if it had been done sooner, then it would have freed up some more time for the story walking and other parts of the show. I do think this has been a good season of the show so far, and I feel the success of it is fully dependent on these final 2 episodes. I think they will be good because we're either going to see the group going into the caves and then finding answers, or we'll see an unimaginable amount of suffering on the horizon. So for us, it's a win-win. So, there you have it, from Season 4, Episode 8, Ending Explained.